This is Graduate a CEO, what it takes and what it means to become an entrepreneur, and why college is the perfect time to start your business. Here's Jim Hunter.
This week's guest is a born entrepreneur. His name is Isaac Hetzeroni. He's the founder and CEO of Imprint Genius, one of the fastest growing promotional products companies in the world. Isaac has traveled the world sourcing thousands of products in his career and now shares his wealth of knowledge through thesourcingguy.com, where you can find free product sourcing education and resources. Isaac, welcome to the podcast.
Jim, thanks so much for having me.
Can you tell us more about your experience growing up and working in your family's factories?
Yeah, I had a really interesting upbringing with both sides of my family kind of being in manufacturing. My mom's side of the family, we had a small dancewear factory in Toronto. And then on my dad's side of the family, we had an electronics factory in China. So two very different kinds of manufacturing, but it was a really fun upbringing. A story that, my grandfather likes to tell is that when I would go and almost help out, in the factory. And I was so young that I would do swatches, which would be like the fabric cards, and you have to number them. And the 3s and the 5s on the number cards were actually backwards. That's how young I was, kind of just helping out and working in the factory.
Well, great. Did you get paid for what you did?
I don't know if it was standard minimum wage at the time in Toronto, but I know that I would get either a loonie or a toonie for like a day's work, and I would go and buy these little toys after every day. But just that whole response of work equals money, and then I can take that money and buy what I want from it. Being super young, it really instilled that concept of work and money, and I think it was actually a huge part into why I became an entrepreneur at such a young age.
I would sure think so. How old were you when you were doing that in your grandfather's factory?
Oh, I must have been 5 years old,
Wow.
6 years old, and then through high school, I was helping every summer with my dad's company and his factory and that side of things.
Well, that's great. And you got paid for everything you did, right?
Yeah, for sure. Once I started working at my dad's, it was more of a legitimate role. I don't think they were actually using any of the work I was doing when I was 5 at the factory, but it was still a great experience.
Well, that's great. What inspired you to travel the world sourcing products?
Yeah, so we are a product sourcing and merchandising company. So we produce products for U.S. brands. That's the easiest way to say it. So when a company needs to make 10,000 T-shirts or 100 water bottles or a whole new campaign or retail goods, we go and find the best products for them. We do all the production and shipments. We also have our own app for enterprise clients. Been doing this for a long time now. Started my company freshman year of college. And what I realized was for me to be the absolute best at what I do, I need to be on the ground. I need to be diversifying our supply chain outside of China. I need to really understand these different, types of manufacturing aside from, what I kind of grew up in. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to take our company, I'm going to move things full remote, and I'm just going to go and travel. So I went and my first trip was 8.5 months all throughout Asia, visiting countless factories, shooting tons of content as well. And it really changed our entire trajectory and improved our supply chain exponentially.
How long ago was that when you did that first trip?
That first trip was about 1.5 years ago. And since then I've been on this, the company's been relatively full remote, and I've been, in Asia and the US bouncing around. I'm currently calling in from Bali. I'll be heading over to Philippines in a couple of weeks, and then I'll be in China for the Canton Fair for about 2 weeks as well.
Well, I visited the Canton Fair many, many times, both in the spring and in the fall, and it's just an amazing array of products.
Yeah, definitely. What were you there for?
This happened to be a mosquito trap, which was one of the products that I got involved with a few years back, and it was made first in Korea, and then in China, and then with the new tariffs that were imposed, we moved it to Vietnam. But spent a lot of time at the Canton Fair visiting with suppliers for that product, as well as looking for other things. It's just an amazing fair.
That's awesome.
Let's step back a little further. When you were, I think it was maybe junior high, when did you first get involved in getting products that were exciting to your student friends and eventually became exciting to the local community where they put their name on it, to get you to put their name on it? Tell us about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say it started in middle school around seventh grade. I started selling Beats by Dre headphones. That was kind of like all the rage at the time. And so I originally figured out a way to get like open box Beats by Dre headphones through Monster through like this like side website. So they're fully authentic, and I saw that I could get them at like 100%, $100 discount, and then people were paying full retail, so I offered a service. I could get them the same headphones, open box for $50 less. So right, so I'm very young at the time. Me making $50, $100 a sale was huge, and I started off doing that and built a little business. And then yeah, I must have been like 12 years old. Then I started looking into like fake headphones as well, like fake Beats by Dre's, and I saw that I could get these like pretty good replicas for about $3 for the little in-ear headphones. And so I started also offering, fake pairs as well. So I have my real options and my fake ones. And then that just kind of grew into, by eighth grade or the end of middle school, I had like 15 kids working for me, running all around the different campuses at the local ice skating rink, selling, all kinds of little gadgets. And I bought out my biggest competitor on the middle school, and we took over his Facebook page and got into, sunglasses and hats and G-Shocks. So I was just selling all kinds of gadgets. That I think that was like, I guess my first like company in a sense, first little business. Long story short, then started was kind of doing similar. I had a bunch of other businesses in high school, and then that turned into in college, selling another gadget at fraternity parties, and then that grew into custom products to the local community, grew into a full scale promotional products company, and now we're a promotional products company, but also global product sourcing agency. So everything kind of just starts from the beginning and keeps on evolving.
Well, it sounds like you really had quite an entrepreneurial start when you were in middle school. And one of the things that really struck me was that you said not only was it a neat product, but it would attract the girls as well.
Yeah, I mean, so in college, the story of how I started my company was I brought these little cell phone fans that plug into your phone to a party, and I didn't bring it to sell the products. I just brought it because it's Gainesville, Florida, and if you've ever been there in the summertime, it's literally a swamp, right? So I brought it to help me cool down. And next thing I knew, I had almost every girl at the party begging to borrow it, and now I'm striking up conversation. Now I'm a freshman, first week on campus, and talking to all these girls. This is like a dream come true. Then I realized that this was also a business opportunity. Like maybe I could go. At first, I was just telling these. They're like, "Oh my god, where did you get that?" I'm like, "Oh, I got it from you can buy them like AliExpress." And then by like the fourth girl, I was like, I should just sell them to them, right? So I was like, oh, well, I sell them. I'm Isaac the Fan Guy, so I make up this persona. They're $5, blah blah blah. And I start getting everyone's kind of contact information. Now I'm like known as Isaac the Fan Guy. I order 100. I'm selling at all these parties. All my friends now see me like selling these fans to girls, talking to girls, making friends, and they're like, oh my god, we want to do that too. So then having all my friends starting to sell the fans as well, built a whole brand around it. And it was a very organic process, but they really just rooted from just trying to have fun, I mean, all the money I was making, I was just buying shots and beer with, it was kind of like but then eventually it became into like, oh my God, we just made 5 grand off this one bulk order. Like, I'm not going to spend all this on drinks. Let's keep on reinvesting and build a business here.
That's a great story. It sounds like a lot of fun, and it really kind of conditioned you as an entrepreneur. You could see how you could fill a need and make it fun and make some money. It was great.
Yeah, 100%.
How do you approach identifying potential suppliers in a new country or region?
Yeah, I mean, so a big part of it's going to be research. So it's really important to learn the benefits of specific product types based off of the conditions of the country. So, like, I mean, an example would be I was just visiting some factories in Jakarta, Indonesia. You know, I like to use factories here for specific types of products like CBC or poly blended apparel. There's a lot of reasons behind that. So with Indonesia, they're a massive producer of oil. Oil, it makes plastic, and polyester goods and dry fit type goods are essentially made from these pellets of plastic, and then they're turned to thread. So when you're producing in a place like Indonesia, comparatively to 100% cotton, the polyester mix is going to be cheaper. And then it's also going to have the cooling properties. And Indonesia is a massive country with like, I want to say there's hundreds of millions of people here. So you have all these elements into play. So what happens naturally? Well, the localized market is going to take up majority of the production, and the localized market is going to demand low cost goods that are utilizing local materials and that are cooling because it's very hot. So naturally, Indonesia is going to become a great place to be able to source these kind of polyester t-shirts with some customization on top of it. So that's just kind of one example of really trying to break down a product type and then a location and then trying to match it for the specific use case.
So really, the product sourcing can be a part of the success of your business because you identify products and sourcing, and then adapt it to the market. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's really just trying to have that bit of competitive edge. Most of our competitors are using domestic suppliers. They're really not thinking outside the box or taking the easy route, and that's fine when you're doing 100 t-shirts, 500 t-shirts. But if we want to win the programs for a million t-shirts, these little advantages, these little percentage points can actually make the biggest difference for us to consistently win the accounts that we want.
Well, great. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs who are just starting to source products internationally? What should they do?
It's a long-winded question. A lot of people were asking me that, so I actually built an entire website dedicated to teaching people how to source products and a personal brand around it. So it's thesourcingguy.com, and it's tons of free articles and resources that I wrote to essentially explain how to source products. And then within the next 2 months, I'm going to be launching a full comprehensive course on product sourcing from A to Z, how to source your first products, identify suppliers, all that kinds of stuff.
What would you say was the biggest challenge you faced when starting your company?
I would say that there's challenges with people and hiring, and I think that people management is one of the biggest things that people don't talk about when it comes to like struggles when you're running a company. People talk about, product or sales and all that kind of stuff, but a company is really just the people that are within it. And becoming a good leader and knowing how to hire the right people and manage the right people and make those decisions, is in my opinion the most important part. So when starting off the company, I was hiring all my friends, right? I was hiring all people that were in school when we started off on a commission basis. So their priorities were not, and focus were not the company. Their priorities were school and their exams or whatever it was. So it was fine when we were going and wearing funny tank tops and selling fans at parties, but when we started growing and scaling into a real business and starting to work with major recognizable companies, and having those same kinds of people, it was very hard to like adapt the entire culture of the business and adapt from a like management perspective, and that was a really hard kind of growing pain, and it was a consistent pain all through until pretty much till I graduated, was having the right kind of people and realizing I have to start hiring people that were way older than me and that were graduated and that had more experience. And that could really bring a lot more to the table. That was a big thing I learned.
Let me step back a little bit. You're in Bali right now as we talk. Where do you live? Where is your company based? Where are your people? Tell us a little bit about the whole organization.
Yeah, so we were based. We had a cool office in Gainesville, Florida, while I was growing the company from, I guess, freshman year until a year past senior year. So for about 4.5 years. And then we moved into an office, like a smaller office in Miami, converted a lot of the staff that were actually US based staff, moved a lot of it over to the Philippines. So that now we have 10 full time employees in the Philippines for all kinds of different roles. We have a smaller US based staff that's more on on the sales side. And then our dev teams in India. So we went from being like a very in person company and a lot more US focused to a very international remote company. And it's been a really amazing shift, complicated shift, but amazing shift overall from my efficiency standpoint, cost standpoint, and lifestyle standpoint for myself.
Where do you hang your hat? Are you all over the place, or do you have a headquarters office somewhere?
Yeah, so now we moved over to a just a simple virtual office in Miami, and now I mean I live in Bali as my kind of home base. I'm in the U.S. 4 to 5 months out of the year to do whatever I need to do, and then I'm bouncing around Asia. So, but yeah, I haven't had like a apartment lease in almost 2 years now. So.
That's amazing. Let me shift for a moment and ask how you manage risk when you make decisions for your company.
Well, that's a good question. I would say risk. So we run a risky business in the sense of like there's a lot that can go wrong within production fulfillment. That's why people come to us. And they use us to source their goods and run their apparel programs and all that kind of stuff. So what we do is build really, really robust systems and processes and checks and balances to make whatever we do, sure proof and fail proof. Building, a lot of automation, building, really, really strict processes and a lot using different technology tools to do that has allowed us to mitigate risk incredibly well and, allow us to, run more complex projects and be a little more on the edge.
That's great. Okay, Isaac, we have to stop here, but coming up in the second part of my talk with Isaac Hetzeroni, the founder and CEO of Imprint Genius, Isaac shares the benefits of starting a business while in college.
You can be so risky because worst case, your company just like goes to zero and then you become another broke college kid. Like you have so much freedom here to fail.
This has been Graduate a CEO with Jim Hunter. If you'd like to connect with Jim and learn more about why you should consider starting a business while in college, go to jameshunter.com. Graduate a CEO is a production of Advantage Audio.